South Africans enjoy their braais. So, when the opportunity to buy into a Chesa Nyama franchise arose, many invested into it. But distraught former franchisees alleged this business opportunity only favoured the franchise company and its previous owners, and as a result, they have nothing to show for it.
Honestly, I lost everything.
He defrauded people for his own benefit.
I'd like South Africans to know about Stelio and Praxia. If they ever open anything else, do not do business with them.
In 2012, the first Chesa Nyama store opened. Gold Brands Investments Ltd, the parent company behind the franchise at the time, believed they had found a gap in the market.
We all love our braais. It's something that we all do on our weekends. We chill out watching sports or whatever. We're chilling with our friends, our families, and having a good braai. And that braai concept was the idea that I had in 2012 to bring it into the towns and the suburbs, into the workplaces, and make it a daily concept.
Many aspiring franchisees bought into the concept, like Mfundo Nkosi and Kawina Kakoma, who have full-time jobs and wanted additional income. Their dream was to make their store thrive and open more franchises.
The reason we bought into Chesa Nyama was because they were mushrooming everywhere in South Africa. It was like the fastest growing franchise brand. They were opening in every mall at every corner you could find. So we obviously thought they must be doing something right.
They say they did internet research on the company, read newspaper articles, and after paying the mandatory 100,000 Rand franchise fee or deposit from their own pockets, this got them a foot in the door. After being shown the number of franchises that had opened, as well as future plans for stores, they were convinced and proceeded to find a location.
I think in the process that we were looking for a store, they sort of become impatient in the sense that, okay, you guys really need to find a store quick. And then they sort of find a store for us. And they found the site at Kizina, and they told us that the site was a fish and chips owned by Stelios himself previously. And they said that it was doing numbers. I remember once thinking to myself, but if it was doing numbers, why did it close? But I suppose we were thinking, okay, maybe it's fish and chips, maybe if it's Chesa Nyama, it'll make more money.
According to them, barely months into their business, the wheels started coming off.
They regularly, let's say, deliver the wrong stock items. And their route runs on a weekly basis. So if they deliver the wrong stock this week, we have to wait for a whole week before we get the replacement stock. Or they don't even have the stock item, which only they provide. It's not like we could go to a supermarket to get the specific source. Okay, then customers would start noticing that, okay, we keep giving them excuses and they keep supporting us. They can only do that for so long. So then we started losing customers.
I think our first month, we did something like a turnover of 170,000 or 160,000, I can't remember, where they gave us indication that we do something like 220,000 Rand a month. Now, 170,000 sounds like it's a lot, but it's not when you're running a store, because there's expenses that you have to obligate. And when you call them, they tell you that, okay, fine, the consultant or the area manager or whatever will come to your store and will come and have a look or whatever. First of all, they take a while to come. Second of all, when they do come, the guy could be there for like an hour or 2 hours and walk around the store and say, okay, this is dirty, or you're not doing this right, or whatever the case is, and your staff should be doing this, your staff should be doing that, so get them to do that, and your store will run right, and then they walk out. And then you sitting there and you're thinking, okay, so this means it's my fault. It means that I'm the one who's not running the store right.
In Hartbeespoort Dam, Bernie Hara quit her full-time job to buy into the franchise. At the back of her yard now lies her old store equipment.
table over there that I was in my office.
After paying the complete amount of 500,000 Rand, she alleges she had to wait 6 months for the company to open a store. And then what followed were expenses she claims she was never told about.
When you pay your 500,000, you expect that it's your 500,000 for your business and that is it. There was an extra cost of 10,000 Rand for a person that is going to draw the outlet of your store that you've never met, but you had to pay him 10,000. That came as a shock. Up until today, I've never met this person.
According to her, from the start it was an uphill battle, but she managed for the first few months.
Afterwards, we started to encounter problems, stock, outdated stock, stew, beef stew that is like meaty bones. You know, it was a constant problem with stock from head office.
Wayne Dry, who had previous experience running a business and tells us he toiled in a shop every day, believes what was most frustrating was knowing he could find cheaper stock elsewhere, but the franchise agreement forced them to order from Gold Brands.
It all boiled down to a cost of sales. What they did, they said they're not going to charge a percentage of your turnover for franchise fees. We had a set amount of 4,000 Rand a month. So now if you look at the bigger picture, that's where they made their money. Okay, we're not charging you a percentage on turnover for franchise, but we will put a massive markup on your stocks that you order from us. And I'm telling you, really, double the prices of other suppliers.
On top of this, he alleges they couldn't use their own service providers. Gold Brands had systems in place already.
GARP that is the point of sale system, you know, like in what they called in the old days your till, and your back office system, your stock ordering, all that type. Epico is the accounting system that did our figures, you know, your cost of sale, your turnover, your VAT, all that. And Confessor was the labor lawyers that did all our staff issues. And really, I've looked at all other suppliers or service providers, and we could have gotten at much better, cheaper prices.
To this day, he alleges they were duped by being forced to order stock from head office, otherwise there would be penalties.
Their words were, it was the Chesa Nyama flavor, Chesa Nyama taste. It's the Chesa Nyama recipe. It was never a Chesa Nyama recipe. They bought like in big containers of tomato sauce, mustard, and they just repacked it into 5-liter bottles.
Former Chesa Nyama franchisees who entered into agreements with the company and its then parent company Gold Brands allege their deals turned sour because of the manner in which the company and its previous owners conducted business. They believe the agreements were always meant to favor the franchisor, and despite all their efforts, they were doomed.
I did marketing on myself, went to the newspaper, I ran competitions, weekly competitions, monthly competitions. I mean, I had a cell phone competition, I had free meals competition. Really, I went out of my way.
They allege they received very little support.
I was running my store for about 9 months. And that was the first time ever that anybody from Gold Brands walked into my store. 9 months later.
They also allege the company was not honest from the start.
The area that we chose, from their projections and their feasibility studies, it looked like it was a gold mine, but we later saw that it was actually generic figures with other franchise stores, meaning there was no real feasibility study done. If they all have the same numbers, then it obviously shows you OT. It's something that sucked.
Monthly, they had to inject cash into their businesses to keep them afloat.
All right, then we started taking loans, personal loans, obviously borrowing from family. We are getting hammered now. And we now operate, we're no longer obviously working at the store because we are permanently employed. All right, then it strained our lives up to the point where I even got a divorce, right? You know. So yeah, Chesa Nyama really did a number on us.
I had to take all my savings. I had to part with a unit. I had to part with a luxury car in order for me to be secure in having a good cash flow. That did not even help me at the end of the day. It doesn't make sense to my family or to my husband that you're running a business, you come asking for money, you take from accounts which we did not budget and plan for. What is this business standing for? So I was nearly divorced.
In my situation, it started building trust issues in the relationship, whereby you literally leave the home early. You go to work, and from work, I'd leave the office and go straight to the store, and I'd have to come home late. And my partner started asking, "But you're coming home late, but the money is not there," and you know it doesn't make sense.
Honestly, I lost everything.
What does everything mean?
My pension fund, my investment. Like I said, I sold my property. My last property that I had to sell it to get the last money on that to survive.
They say they eventually had to voluntarily pull out of their agreements and move out of the premises where they were renting. Wayne, whose health has suffered, tells us even though he had a willing buyer for his store, Gold Brands allegedly refused to let him sell it and also didn't want to buy it back from him.
Came to the point where I just said, cut your losses, get out, because it's getting worse. It was at a point I didn't have no more backup cash that I could put in there no more. So I confronted the landlord and said, listen, I have to close my doors. Is there something we can negotiate and talk about? And they said, okay, cool. I hand them the keys. They take it lock, stock and barrel. Equipment, everything, I walk away. Then no legal actions on my 3 years remaining rental lease. So what I did, I locked the store behind my back, gave them the keys, walked away. I walked out with nothing out of that store.
Including interest, lawyer fees, the one, which was real people, 950 at that time. City property was 250.
It was 300 and something.
Was it 30 something? Escom, Telcom, Chubb, even these loose, yeah. So we were over R1 million in debt.
What about the people that we've employed? Because we are accountable for that people. I was accountable for 10 people's lives. So he have deceived us greatly.
Founder and COO of Chesa Nyama, Stelio Nathanael, and his wife CEO Praxia and Nathanael are being accused of business practices that enriched themselves at the expense of their franchisees, who allege they experienced major financial losses. By June 2016, the franchise had reached a huge milestone and boasted a total of 316 stores. Months earlier in February 2016, Stelio had announced plans to expand to an overseas market.
Yeah, I think we're the only braai barbecue concept that's going into the market in South Africa, in America and the States, with a sit-down restaurant.
In the same year, the company listed on the Johannesburg Stock Exchange. However, in 2018, Gold Brands, the umbrella company, was suspended from the JSE for failing to submit its annual report. Under the company's portfolio was steakhouse chain Black Steer, as well as the fish and chips company, which were both eventually sold. The National Consumer Commission says that they have received complaints about Gold Brands, 4 complaints about Black Steer and 3 about Chesa Nyama.
In the one instance, it was about a consumer complaining or a franchisee complaining that another branch was opened within, I think, 1 kilometer proximity of that branch. And then in another instance, there was the consumer alleged that the projections, the financial projections that were made, return on investment and all that, was inaccurate, and that once the person started operating the business, he or she saw nothing close on to what was projected as a return on investment or potential income on a monthly basis.
Hatting says franchisees are recognized as consumers under the Consumer Protection Act and are entitled to all the rights and recourse provided to ordinary consumers. He says the Chesa Nyama complaints are currently being investigated.
If it is found that any, or Chesa Nyama in this case, has potentially contravened any section of the Consumer Protection Act, then we will prosecute the supplier. We will take them to the National Consumer Tribunal, where we will lodge an application for prosecution.
However, he admits that thus far they have not prosecuted a franchise matter. Consumers often have to go the civil route because the recourse they seek is usually outside the Consumer Protection Act.
One of the main reasons is that in most of the cases where we receive franchise type of complaints, the complaints, either the type of redress that the consumer wants is the type of redress that cannot be provided by the National Consumer Tribunal, which then means that we cannot prosecute that case in the Consumer Tribunal.
The Chesa Nyama franchisees claim that Gold Brands failed to comply with the provisions of the Consumer Protection Act, and in particular, the requirement to supply prospective franchisees with a disclosure document. Under the Act and its regulations, franchisors must provide all prospective franchisees with the document at least 14 days before they invest. The Franchise Association of South Africa is the only representative body for franchising in our country. Its mandate is to promote ethical franchising and set down industry standards. Membership is voluntary, and Gold Brands is not a member. Every franchise that applies for accreditation must give a written undertaking that it will abide by the Code of Ethics. Vera Velasquez says a disclosure document is integral.
That's why it was set down as an industry requirement for franchise companies, and potential franchisees must absolutely insist that they receive a disclosure document that is up to date. Because quite often disclosure documents become outdated, perhaps a franchise is sold or it's closed or new ones have opened and the disclosure document is not updated, then that's also a problem. So that disclosure document should tell the potential franchisee everything about the franchise.
The World Franchise Council currently has 47 countries belonging to their body, and South Africa is one of the few remaining industries internationally where franchising is not properly managed by local governments.
Our concern is that the franchise industry in South Africa doesn't have an industry code, so it doesn't have an ombudsman, so franchisees that have been done in cannot have that recourse that they should have through the services of an ombud. So having an industry code in place would force every single company that calls themselves a franchise to abide by that code of ethics.
She says we need franchisees in our economy.
Well, franchising in South Africa contributes just over 15% to GDP. And through the World Franchise Council, we've learned that South Africa, the industry, the local industry, is the 5th highest contributor in the world to its country's economy. So franchising for South Africa is very, very important. It contributes about 500,000 permanent jobs, and that doesn't include the part-time, casual work opportunities that our industry offers. And there's about 42,000 franchised outlets in South Africa.
After sending a detailed list of allegations, Stelio Nathanael refused to commit to a TV interview. In the following conversation, he denies the allegations and maintains he did nothing wrong.
Why is it that it's taken them 5 years to come and complain. Because these franchisees are either defranchise them or they close their store themselves by being non-compliant. And all the things that they placing in the email they've given you. For example, the one person in Oudtshoorn, Augustina, I think it was, he said he made 170,000 in his first month. According to me, that's a very good turnover to do in the first month of opening a store. The money that they owe me for stock that they haven't paid, including the Kodibis never was completely non-compliant. Okay, if you're non-compliant, you're not paying royalties, you're not buying stock from me, why must I send my operations people to visit your store?
Gold Brands has since sold Chesa Nyama to the franchise company. This company says they were not aware of the allegations made by the 4 franchisees and are in the process of initiating an investigation into the allegations. The National Consumer Commission says disgruntled franchisees must lodge more complaints.
You see, if you come in with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 complaints, that is not a trend. That is not a trend, right? If there is a trend of a certain type of complaint, we can intervene strategically in that matter. Also, you need to understand that the law is not static. The law is not static. You have never heard of an act that has never been amended before in this country. So, I say again, if you are going to have issues of any kind and you are not going to bring them to our attention, or you're going to social media or you're going to WhatsApp or something, any social network, you have not officially brought it to our attention. And I specifically mentioned earlier on that we've had 3 Chesa Nyama complaints, we've had 4 Black Steer complaints, and that's it.
But the franchisees who formed a WhatsApp group and couldn't raise funds to pursue a class action say they just don't have the finances to mount an opposition against Gold Brands. They want to forget this ever happened.
He defrauded people for his own benefit.
Has he got no conscience? Because he knows himself it was a non-profitable business.
They've done a lot to us, which, like right now, every single time your phone rings, you have to, when it's a number that you don't know if it's a creditor who's saying they want money from you guys, it's still ongoing.
I'd like South Africans to know about Stelio and Praxia. If they ever open anything else, do not do business with them, because you will get, excuse my language, but you will get effed.